wonderful to be in Aberdeen. We're in the north of Scotland and we're meeting Alan Templeton on behalf of ESHRE and our local organising committee. And we all remember the famous Templeton aphorism, replace as many embryos as you wish, but one at a time, which was really visionary at the time.
Well, of course, I didn't say that for the first time. It was Carl Nygren in Stockholm who said that.
Indeed.
But what became clear, analysing the database, that we'd all fallen into the trap of thinking that few embryos replaced meant poor pregnancy rates. But of course, if you have few embryos, you put back few embryos, it's because you only have few embryos. And we know that the fewer embryos you have, the poorer the quality and the worse the outcomes. So the key issue, the key prognostic issue, was not the number of embryos going back, it was the number of embryos available.
You've been active in many fields, including the regulatory field, and we do share that experience about the HFEA. So do you think that we are over-regulated, not regulated enough, or that we should only trust a code of practice?
Yes, it's the eternal question. And the penalty for allowing embryo research in this country was that it had to be regulated, and in the process also clinical practice was regulated. So that was the slight downside. But on the other hand, we had a very good framework of supporting clinical embryo research in this country, unlike many other countries. So yes, I think we need to be regulated, but I think we should be moving to a self-regulation, essentially clinical regulation process.
The next point, of course, stemming from all this regulation is the database collection, from which certainly you taught us a lot to inform both colleagues in the RT field and the public as to what one could expect for their much wanted result, a healthy child.
Yeah, I mean the database was one of the upsides of the clinical regulation process, and of course was initially put in place to look at outcomes among individual clinics. But it became clear fairly quickly that collectively this is a huge database which we could answer some really important clinical questions. And of course, the issues that determine outcome in fertility, age, duration of infertility, previous pregnancy, and so on, we were able actually to, using this database, to put numbers on, to gauge just how big these effects were. For example, if you'd had a previous IVF pregnancy, particularly a live birth, your chances of becoming pregnant again were almost doubled.
When you were president of the Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, you were clearly a prime mover in developing both college guidelines and NICE guidelines. What do you think we need to address at this present stage?
Guidelines give frontline clinicians information that they need to treat patients. The implementation of guidelines, which is essentially spreading the word, is a key part of modern medicine.
On a personal level, what achievements have you been most satisfied with during your long and distinguished career?
I think developing clinical services, I think, are the things, to be honest, that give me most satisfaction. I mean, I remember when I was a resident in my first gynae ward, the standard investigation for women was a D&C and tubal insufflation, neither of which really stood up to much a close investigation. And for the men, I remember we used to, on a Saturday morning, we had the men come in and give us their specimen, and we only had to give one answer to the men, which was yes or no. And there was no protocol written down. It was unclear what the implications of that was. And so it was actually developing protocols to handle both sides of the investigation that got me started, if you like, in infertility.